The UK, a country known for tea, crumpets, and being very bad at sports that they invent. But have you ever wondered how the UK works? A lot of us use England, Great Britain, and the United Kingdom interchangeably, but did you know they refer to completely different things? Join me as I dive into the history, politics, and economics of the UK and give you a quick rundown of how the country works from top to bottom. Stick around until the end when we cover the major challenges that the UK faces in the near future. This is Marco from How Countries Work, and let's get to it. The United Kingdom is a union of 4 different countries: England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. The 4 territories are located just off the coast of France and Belgium, in the North Sea, on the island of Great Britain, and in the north of Ireland. While they form a political union, they each have their own individual cultures and histories. As a whole, the origins of the UK's political system can be traced back to the 10th century, when the Anglo-Saxon kings of England ruled over their territories through a system of feudalism. However, it wasn't until the 13th century that the English Parliament was established, with the first recorded meeting taking place in 1215. This was a significant development, as it marked the beginning of representative government in England. Initially, the king had a large amount of power. However, over the next few centuries, the power of Parliament grew, while the monarch's power diminished. This process began with the signing of the Magna Carta in 1215, and eventually the English Civil War and the Glorious Revolution of the 17th century, which saw Parliament assert its authority over the monarchy. After this, England became a constitutional monarchy, with the monarch's power limited by law and the authority of Parliament. Wales joined the Union in the 16th century through the Laws in Wales Act, and Scotland joined through the Acts of Union in 1707. Ireland's relationship with Britain was more complicated. In 1808, the Act of Union united Ireland with Great Britain to create the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. The union was controversial and unpopular in Ireland, and it was later dissolved in 1922 following the Irish War of Independence, which resulted in the partition of Ireland and the creation of Northern Ireland and the Irish Free State. This formed the entity as we know it today, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. The UK played a significant role in colonialism, as it established colonies and claimed territories around the world in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. The British Empire at its peak was the largest empire in history, with colonies in every continent and spanning over a quarter of the world's landmass, while ruling over approximately 458 million people. This had a significant impact on the global politics, trade, and culture of the world, and its influence is still felt in many parts of the world today. It was so large that at its peak, it was said that the sun never sets on the British Empire. The 20th century saw the gradual disbanding of the empire, particularly after World War II. Today, with a population of 67 million within its borders, the United Kingdom ranks as the 5th most populous country in Europe. And although it isn't quite as powerful as it once was, it still holds a considerable amount of power in the modern political and economic-based global ecosystem. As of 2023, the UK is a constitutional monarchy, meaning that King Charles III is the official head of state, but his powers are kept in check by the Parliament in Westminster. The British political system does not have a written constitution in the traditional sense, like many other countries around the world. Instead, the UK has an unwritten constitution, which is made up of a combination of laws, conventions, and customs. Now, the monarch has little to no power and largely acts on the advice of the Prime Minister, who is the head of government. As a unitary government, supreme power rests with the National Parliament in Westminster, while through devolution, the Scottish Parliament, the Senate, and the Northern Ireland Assembly represent Scottish, Welsh, and Northern Irish voters on more local issues such as education, healthcare, and transport. The Parliament is a bicameral parliament, consisting of the lower House of Commons and the upper House of Lords. Being a parliamentary system, the government and the head of government come from within the legislative body, specifically the House of Commons. Parliamentary elections for the House of Commons take place every 5 years, though the Prime Minister has the power to call an election at any time. Citizens in a constituency elect a local candidate from a political party who represents them in the House of Commons. MPs are elected using a first-past-the-post system, which means whichever candidate receives the most votes for that constituency will become the elected representatives. In total, there are 650 constituencies across all 4 countries, and whichever party or coalition can win a majority in the House wins the election and enters into government. The Prime Minister is the head of the political party who won the last parliamentary election and can maintain a majority in the House of Commons. The Prime Minister heads the Cabinet, which is the senior executive authority in the government and is made up of the most senior and influential members of the government who, as ministers, manage particular portfolios or ministries which run the country, such as defence, business, trade and the economy. Ministers must be members of Parliament either through the House of Commons or through the House of Lords. In order to stay in office, the Prime Minister must maintain the confidence of the majority of MPs in their party or in the House of Commons. This is easy when a government has a large majority after an election. Prime Ministers have a lot of power in these situations, as they can do as they please and pass laws they want without much risk of losing confidence. But when governments have small majorities or even minorities, the Prime Minister has much less individual power and generally must bend more often to the whims and wishes of individual MPs in order to pass laws and maintain power. The current Prime Minister is Rishi Sunak, who was chosen to be the head of the Conservative Party after Liz Truss stepped down in October 2022. On the legislative side, a bill must pass through the parliamentary process in order to become law. The government drafts legislation, which is then sent to the House of Commons and the House of Lords for approval. Any bills passed through the House of Commons are then sent to the House of Lords, the unelected second chamber of Parliament. Made up of unelected lifetime peers appointed by the Crown, they rarely reject legislation passed by the Commons, but still play a crucial role in scrutinising and adding amendments. After royal assent from the monarch, which is almost always given, the law is then brought into effect. Again, this is much easier for a government with a large majority than it is for a government with a smaller one. As mentioned prior, there are a number of political parties filling the seats of Parliament. However, four stand out above the rest: the Conservative Party, the Labour Party, the Liberal Democrats and the Scottish National Party, or SNP. The Conservative Party is centre-right and advocates for individual freedom, low taxes and a free market economy. Law and order are at the centre of their political mandate, and it was under a Conservative leadership that Brexit was initiated. The Labour Party is centre-left and advocates for social justice, equality and economic interventionism. They support increased government spending on public services, higher taxes on the wealthy and corporations, and are progressive on social issues. They are the second largest political party in the UK and are in opposition to the current Conservative government. The Liberal Democrats are centre-left and advocate for social liberalism, internationalism and environmentalism. They are most known for their campaign to have the UK rejoin the EU, but they also advocate for investment in public services and progressive social policies. The Scottish National Party is different from the others, as it concerns itself primarily with Scottish independence. The SNP advocates for a free Scotland that is part of the EU. Unlike the other parties, the head of the party is not in the House of Commons, but serves as the First Minister of Scotland in the Scottish Parliament instead. And finally, the role of the judiciary in a democratic society is to interpret and apply the law impartially, fairly, and independently of the other branches of government. Each level of court will deal with different issues, with the higher courts typically handling larger and more complex cases. The judiciary in the UK is more complicated than in other countries, as the courts differ depending on which country you're in. In England and Wales, you might go through the Court of Appeals, whereas in Scotland, you would go through the High Court of Justiciary. The final court of appeal for the whole of the UK is the Supreme Court of the United Kingdom. This court has the final say on matters of UK law and is responsible for interpreting and applying the law in the most important and complex cases. The UK has one of the world's most developed economies, the sixth largest behind Germany but ahead of France. With high levels of wealth and social services, one of the UK's major strengths is its highly skilled workforce, particularly in industries such as technology and finance. The country has a strong tradition of innovation and entrepreneurship, with many successful startups and small businesses. One of the UK's strongest points of pride is its National Health Service, or NHS, a single-payer nationwide healthcare service funded entirely by the public. However, the UK also faces several economic challenges, including a high level of income inequality, regional disparities in economic growth, and a productivity gap compared to other developed countries. In addition, the end of the COVID-19 pandemic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine has sparked a global energy crisis, which turned into a cost of living crisis due to high inflation. In 2022, Conservative Prime Minister Liz Truss announced plans to cut income tax dramatically to fight the crisis, the plan was so poorly met that it led to a massive devaluation of the pound and caused Truss to resign after only 45 days into her tenure. Beyond the cost of living crisis, the UK is dealing with a number of internal political issues. First and foremost, the impact of Brexit was severe. The question of whether the UK should leave or remain in the European Union was an extremely divisive issue that ground the country to a halt for close to half a decade. This eventually resulted in the UK leaving the EU, but the effects can still be felt today. On top of this, the existence of the Union itself is being called into question. Having already had a referendum on the issue in 2014, Scotland's population expressed a largely pro-Remain sentiment during the Brexit referendum in 2016. Given that the SNP is the largest party in Scotland, the demands for an independent Scotland free to pursue EU membership have become increasingly harder for the UK government to ignore. Sinn Féin, a pro-reunification party in Northern Ireland, has for the first time obtained the most seats in the Northern Ireland Assembly. Soon, the UK could be fighting two pro-EU separatist movements at once, one from Scotland and the other from Northern Ireland. And there you have it. That was a quick rundown of everything you need to know about the United Kingdom. If you want more videos explaining how countries work, just check out my channel. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button for more content like this in the future. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.